Power Hour with John Lee.
Next, the Manson family. Obviously, the leader Charles Manson. Now, you could talk about Manson family for years. Now, there's only 9 deaths attributed to the Manson family. Why is it suspicious? Because, let's get the story first of all. Charles Manson, brought up poor. His mother was a prostitute and a criminal in general, and never knew his father. His mother went to prison when he was young. He used to visit his mother in jail. He said the only thing that I learned from my mother was that she was lying all the time and never to trust anybody. So he grew up in the prison system for, stealing cars, armed robberies, and he grew up in the system. And then he was released a couple of times back in jail, but then he was released significantly in the mid-60s. MK Ultra time. This is when they were really hot on the MK Ultra, and he was in the prison system during the MK Ultra trials, which were conducted largely in prisons, not exclusively. They did it to Ted Kaczynski at Harvard University. The Unabomber drove him insane. Created the Unabomber at Harvard University. Same thing, same kind of mind control techniques. It's even in the Netflix, Netflix documentary. Or Whitey Bulger was in Alcatraz, one of the big, most interesting criminals of the 20th century in America. He was also subjected to MK Ultra in prison, and when he came out, he was a criminal mastermind. He was a petty thief when he went in. That's another story for another day. So Charles Manson comes out in the 60s, and it's a changed world, and he goes down to San Francisco, because that's where all the action is. That's where all the hippies are. The sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's all down there in California. So he goes down to San Francisco, to the Mecca, really, the hippie Mecca, down there in San Francisco. I think it's Haight and Ashbury, I think. Not hate as in I hate you, it's spelt differently, but it's the word hate is there, curiously enough. And it's like the crossroads, and it's in that area. There's a park where everyone used to go, and that was the authentic hippie place to be. So he went down there and started recruiting hippies, basically. And there's a song, it's very, I can't remember who sang it, but it was, if you're going to San Francisco, and he says, make sure you wear some flowers in your hair, something like that. And that was actually because it was dangerous. Where there's drugs, there's money, and where there's money, there's criminals. Criminal gangs, a lot of bikers down there. So put some flowers in your hair so people know you're a hippie and don't think you're a dealer. You get yourself shot. That's what the song was about. And anyway, he went down there, Charles Manson, and collected all these middle-class teenagers and took them down to LA, to Los Angeles. And in the outskirts of Los Angeles, he just had found an old film set of a town. It's where they made all the cowboy movies, and it had been abandoned. And they moved in there, took drugs every day, orgies every day. He was trying to be a musician, a successful musician, obviously. And he was a musician. Not particularly good in my opinion, but what do I know? Neil Young, the great Neil Young, he said he was brilliant. Not brilliant, but talented, good. He just needed some work. Neil Young knew him. Everyone knew him. The big record producer, I can't remember his name, Doris Day's son. He knew him. The drummer from the Beach Boys let Manson and the Manson family live in his house for about 3 months. Cost him $100,000, which is probably about $1 million now, just to sustain the Manson family. So he's well plugged in at this time. He's trying to get a record contract, and he's taking a lot of drugs, and he's listening to the Beatles religiously, and he's got himself a nice little cult, and they all worship him. They think he's Jesus. They think he's Jesus and the devil combined. They're tripping. The gangster tripping all day, every day. So they think whatever they think, and he's milking it. And then he sends them up to the house. And this is weird. He sends them up to this house where Doris Day's son, the record producer, whose name I can't remember, he used to live there, but now it was occupied by Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. Sharon Tate being a beautiful actress and Roman Polanski being a film director, and later was revealed to be a terrible paedophile. And he made a film called Rosemary's Baby. That's before The Pianist. That was his big work, Rosemary's Baby. And that was about devil worship and a pregnant woman. And his pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, was in the house. He was out of the country. And some of the Manson family, as they're known, went in there and slaughtered them. Slaughtered the 8.5-month pregnant Sharon Tate and her friends. And they were writing pigs and all that in blood, helter-skelter, in blood everywhere. Satanic. I think they just did it for effect, really. But a lot of symbols and real sick killings. And there's a guy called Tex who did most of it. He was like the man who did the killing. He was sent by Charles Manson. But most of the brutal stuff was done by women. There's women on women, stabbing them, stabbing Sharon Tate and all that. Really horrific crimes. But what's weird about it? Well, they've got the MK Ultra connection as well. He's in prison at the time when they're doing these things, and when he comes out, he seems to be some kind of mind control master, and he's able to manipulate groups of people to that point. And he's also got constant access to large quantities of drugs that he seems to just be able to obtain all the time, even though no one's got a job. And he's also got this huge piece of land. It's not a little shack. It's a full town that they've built where they can shoot films, and they've just left it there. They had electricity because they talk about watching the television. And they had field phones, which is something sounds military to me, so they could communicate over long distances, field phones. This looks like something that was set up. You don't just pull a film studio out of your ass and say, yeah, let's live in this. That's suspicious on its own. And then the whole mind control thing, these mind control techniques, I don't know whether he learnt it or he was programmed in prison. They did it to him and he just did it to them, or they did it to him and then released him. I don't know, but the story that's told about that does not make sense. Where he got all the drugs from, where he got the property from, how he knew all these top musicians, even though he didn't really seem to have very much talent and he spent most of his life in jail, doesn't add up. A lot of it doesn't add up. So.